So the media has had to admit what an accomplishment this is. It's been very fun to watch. Like, they're so angry about it. They're just like, begrudgingly, they have to be like, it's a huge win. Never seen anything like it. All right. And then here's Christiane Amanpour. I mean, truly, you can watch the TDS coming out of her ears as she says the following. Watch this.
And I think for sure, people who start to talk to the hostages who've only just been released will find that it will take a long, long time for them to recover physically, but also mentally. It's been a terrible, terrible 2 years for them, because not only are they there, they're probably being treated better than the average Gazan because they are the pawns and the chips that Hamas had. Now Hamas has given up all its leverage, by the way.
Sure, it was a day at the park for the Israeli hostages who were actually starving to death, who were in underground tunnels, who had for weeks and months, in some cases, hoods over their heads and were beaten and abused repeatedly, who had to watch their loved ones die, whose loved ones had been killed in their arms, whose babies died. I'm sure it was a really wonderful experience, Christiane. What the hell is she saying?
Just absolute scum of the earth. And I don't say words like that often. They were starved. They were tortured. The women were sexually assaulted routinely. They were all beaten. They were tied for days and days on end. You could see the evidence of the torture on the arms of the returning men and on the women. Just disgusting. And Megyn, that's who our legacy media is. They are the stenographers of terrorists. She's literally running cover for Hamas. Why? What would possess you to, first of all, lie? It's wrong. You're a journalist. You're supposed to know this. We all saw that picture of Evyatar David, although maybe they didn't show it on CNN because they can't stand showing bad things that terrorists do. But so A, it's wrong, but B, what would possess you, even if it was true, to try to find a positive spin on the kidnapping by terrorists of innocent young people? It's so disgusting, and yet so totally in line with how our legacy media has treated this. The New York Times had a headline the other day, what will Hamas do now that it's given up its leverage? Like the New York Times is very worried that the mass raping, baby killing group that hides behind its own women and children and tortures and executes its own elderly and teenagers is not going to have any leverage anymore. This is who they've been from the beginning of this conflict, because they're totally wokeified, and everybody who works and consumes this legacy media at this point are part of that disgusting, over-credentialed leftist elite who inherently side with the people they see as having less power. And so they're completely in the bag for Hamas. But just to see that from Christiane Amanpour on CNN on this of all days, just utterly, utterly, utterly repulsive. I'm seeing so many people on social media saying, that's it, I'm never watching that channel again.
Good. They should have come to that realization a long time ago. But it's interesting to watch. We are seeing cheers in the Middle East. We are seeing cheers amongst the Palestinians for Trump. We are seeing that. It's crazy. Trump made the point earlier, and he's right. He's like, normally you only have one side cheering when something like this comes to a close, but we have both sides cheering here. But the media, they're not cheering, Batya. You can watch, they're forced. They know it's such a huge accomplishment. They have to say, like, good job. But they're not actually feeling it. I think Christiane kind of landed in the place she felt good about. They had it better off than the Gazans. And now you'll probably hear that repeated because others will be like, oh yeah, that's a good line. I'm going to go with that. And I do wonder, like, why? Like, what did they want the hostages to die? I can't go that far for them. Did they just want this to go on and on so that Israel got further and further demonized? You and I have talked about this, but it's my own support for Israel that made me say, we got to wrap it up. Like, you're losing support. We can't have a relationship between the United States and Israel fracture. But I feel like they wanted the opposite. They wanted it to go on because they saw Israel losing international support and they loved it. Like, go look at Mehdi Hasan's Twitter feed. He's not feeling too celebratory. And I do wonder what's going on there. What do you think?
I couldn't agree with you more. The whole, ceasefire now crowd is silent now that there's an actual ceasefire.
Right.
A, because Donald Trump did it, and B, because a lot of people were making big career moves off of this whole war and celebrating, the fact that Israel was now losing tons and tons of support. Something, by the way, that was extremely important to President Trump to put a stop to, just like you, Megyn. And he explicitly said that. He said, you can't stand alone, Israel. Bibi, you cannot do this alone. You have to wrap it up. And then was able to pull this off. I think what's happening here with the hostages versus the Palestinians is that in the woke mindset, only certain kinds of victims count. So in the Judeo-Christian worldview, we divide things based on right versus wrong. We have like an internal moral compass. A lot of it comes from the Bible, comes from God, comes from our values and our tradition that says this is wrong and you shouldn't do it. And this is right and you should do it. And the people who do the right things are good and the people who do the wrong things are bad. It's like a normal way of thinking about things. But in the woke mindset, they've thrown all that out and they've replaced it with a different binary. There's only who has more power and who has less power. And whoever has less power, that's virtue, is being powerless. And people who have darker skin are powerless. And people who have lighter skin are powerful, and thus they are inherently evil. So it's not divided based on your actions, but just based on your gender or your race or what have you. So that's how you get into a situation where every Israeli, which are coded as white, the way that they code Jews as white, is powerful and thus evil and an oppressor and a colonizer. And every Palestinian who has darker skin is oppressed and weak and powerless and therefore inherently virtuous. And that includes Hamas, Megyn, because they have no internal mechanism to say, well, maybe not all Palestinians. No, because it's based on race, right? It's not based on your actions. So there's nothing in the mindset that explains to them why they should be condemning Hamas and how an Israeli who is held captive could actually be the real victim here and the one deserving of their sympathies. And this is the mindset that every person with a college degree and every person certainly with a graduate degree, and that's most journalists, by the way, have graduate degrees, they all get inculcated into this woke mind virus. And so this explains all of the legacy media. It's not because they're on the left, although they are. It's because they're overeducated in universities that teach them this utterly godless way of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm. So where are we now, Batya, with this thing looking like it's been, I hate to choose the word like settled, resolved. Those are all scary, optimistic words that you don't like to use about the Middle East. But a peace deal has been struck. And the biggest part of it, releasing the hostages, has been lived up to. The live hostages. We can fight about the remains of the dead. But getting those live hostages back was just, you can't overstate how huge it was. But now what? Given that Israel has suffered in terms of its popularity and its favor, and in the Western world, now what? Like, where do we go from here?
So each of those leaders wants something from Trump. Turkey, they want F-16s. They want an easing up of sanctions. Saudi Arabia, I think, want into the Abraham Accords, just like Indonesia. You have Qatar, who wanted an apology from Bibi Netanyahu and want to have very good relations with Trump. And then you have Egypt, who were desperate not to have Palestinians in Sinai and also get a lot of foreign aid. Everybody now is thinking, what can I get out of Trump? And I think he's thinking, how can I give each of them what they're asking for so they give me what I want, which is this peace deal.
Buy gold and get free silver. That's right. For every $5,000 purchase from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they will send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Look, gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year. 40. And Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they will send you your free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They are waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider diversifying your savings into gold. Text MK to the number 989898 for a free info kit and to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchase before the end of the month. Again, text MK to the number 989898. Message and data rates may apply. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.